Welcome to Face to Face, Connecting Theater Makers to the Public, a program from the Legacy Theater and socialdistancetheater.org.
Hi, Jackie.
Hi, Colin. Thank you.
How are you doing during this crazy time?
Oh, crazy time. It sure is. It sure is. I think I'm working harder and longer hours than I have ever worked. But it's rewarding because we're getting a lot done. It's a difficult time. You know, we at the foundation hear from so many different sides of what's going on, and it's impacting everyone and everything that we do, and it will for a long time.
Well, you guys have always supported the Legacy Theater and even provided a sponsorship for us to create Face to Face. So thank you.
Great.
Can you tell us a little bit more about what the foundation does and your specific role there?
Okay, well, the Community Foundation is 91 years old. And for 91 years, we have been stewarding the wishes of philanthropists in our community. Now, a philanthropist can be a big money person, and a philanthropist can be a small money person. There are lots of different ways that philanthropy manifests itself. So we are the community's endowment. We collect money from folks, and we have been doing that for 91 years. And then we turn that back out into the community. So for the donor side, we bring money in. Folks have left us money over the years for particular organizations or for particular preferences, like I'd like the money to go to Brantford, or I like youth services, or I like the arts. Or sometimes they just leave us money and say, do what the community needs. Because who could have anticipated in 1942 that the AIDS crisis would happen or that this pandemic would happen? So it's important for us to have that unrestricted money to be able to nimbly respond. But also we take the wishes of the donors very seriously. So in 1942, Mrs. Silverthau left us money for the provision of milk and coal. Coal,
Wow.
not so much anymore, but we do energy assistance because she wanted to keep people warm. So we've adapted her to modern time, but we're still honoring her wishes. So that's what we do on the donor side. We also have living donors who leave their money with us now, make their own decisions as to how they want to spend it. And then when they can no longer make those decisions, we're ready to be there in perpetuity to make sure that the causes they cared about continue to get that funding. I work on the grant making side, and on the grant making side, we put about $30 million into the community last year. Some of that through the donor designations and donor advised funds that tell us where they'd like it to go. About a third of it is in competitive grant making. So we work in the 20-town region from Milford to Madison, as far north as Cheshire and Wallingford, and the lower Naugatuck Valley, and Sonia, Derby, Oxford, Seymour, Shelton. We give to any nonprofit in that area. So we're not a strategic grant maker. We don't have special strategies that we're only going to work with youth services or only the elderly. We respond to anyone in our nonprofit community in ways that need financial support. We also do a lot of technical assistance. That's part of what I do. I'm on the competitive grant making team. I also head the team for our capacity building. So there are technical assistance and workshops and classes that we do one-on-one with nonprofits to make them stronger organizations. And then the other piece of what I do is something we'll talk more about today, the Great Give and Give Greater, the year-round platform. And that really takes months and months. We started on the Great Give about 6 months ago and blew it all up 6 weeks ago. And we have a whole new Great Give that we're launching in a couple of weeks.
How long have you been with the foundation?
I celebrated my 9th anniversary here in isolation. So I've been 9 years, but I've been in the nonprofit community. I've lived in Hamden every day of my life. And I have been working in nonprofits for almost all of my professional career.
Wow, that's great. As you know, I'm a proud Brantford Community Foundation board member, and I have attended some of your meetings and workshops, and you've supported a lot of our organizations who partake in the Great Give. And as you said, it's a little different this year, and you've been doing it for many years. Can you tell our viewers what exactly is the Great Give that's starting today?
The Great Give is a 36-hour online challenge, and we actually extended that this year, so we're accepting gifts now. And it will go through May 31st. But the 36 hours from 8 a.m. on May 5th to 8 p.m. on May 6th is the Great Give itself. And it's a frenzy for people to support the organizations and causes that they believe in. We have about 385 organizations participating from all over this region, and they're all local organizations. They serve here. They're not national organizations. They're they're our friends and neighbors. And they do absolutely everything. And they have been preparing their strategies, going after a particular prize or reaching out in a special way. And we're encouraging donors to go on. The minimum gift is only $5. So you can go on. You don't have to be, rich in order to do that. You just have to want to care. And if you care enough, you can do a $5 donation to the organization that you care about. More is better. Every organization right now has been impacted by this, but we're seeing so much generosity in the community that we're optimistic that the community is going to come through. Last year, in our 36 hours, we raised $1.87 million.
Wow.
So that's donor dollars and the prizes that we put in and the matching money that we put in with our partner in philanthropy, the Valley Community Foundation. So we are hoping, our goal this year was 2 million, and we're going to stick with that. We're going to say that this community is going to come through. So there is 20% unemployment. We realize that there are a lot of people who won't be able to help, but 80% still are employed. So we're hoping that 80% can dig a little deeper into their pockets and help those organizations that are going through so much turmoil now.
Yeah. Wow, it's a great organization, and you are a great person. And I know one of your other passions are the arts. And I know you're involved with the Whitney Players and New Haven Ballet. Can you let us know how you fell in love with performing and the arts and theater?
That goes back a ways. So I'm going to go all the way back. I'm going to go what I remember first. I sang in a folk group, as everybody, my age, child of the 60s, sang in a folk group. We did mass on Saturday for 3.5 years at Blessed Sacrament Church in Hamden. So that was my first experience in the arts. And then when I got to high school, my high school did one big musical, Sacred Heart Academy. We did one big musical a year. And freshman year, my mother asked me if I was going to try out. I said, no, I have no interest in theater. So then sophomore year, I tried out. And then junior year, I started hanging around with a theater major from Southern. And that was about
hanging around, you said.
No, really. The first one was hanging around. The second one was the one I married.
Oh, got it.
Yeah. So the first one was just, we were good friends, and he brought along this freshman when he designed a show at my high school, and I ended up marrying that freshman. So I started working in that. And so I was in technical theater first. I was performing at school, but really just, third person from the left, nothing special. But I did a lot of technical theater. I'm a decent scene painter. I've built for Broadway. There used to be a scene shop in New Haven that built for Broadway. So I built and painted for Broadway years ago. I started professionally stage managing because I had done a lot of stage management in college. I also managed the dance company. And stage managing dance is very different than stage managing theater. The third time they do this has been a cue line. So a lot of stage management, professional, then volunteer throughout the years. And then I had kids who ended up performing. I had 2 triple threat. We called my son the quadruple threat. My daughter was a singer, dancer, actress all through Hampton High and through Iverton Playhouse and Richter, and every place they went, we would be there to support them. Provide, my husband would do lighting design, but we were there supporting what the kids were doing, and sat through all the voice lessons, sat through all the dance lessons in 2 different dance studios just to make me crazy, because my daughter's studio was great for her, but they didn't do well for men. My son went to a different studio because they really understood the male body's different. So he was in a studio that was better for him. So she was at American Dance, he was at Joni's, and the 2 of them just thrived in what they were doing. And then when they left and went off to college, I got put into a Godspell at Albertus Magnus. So did an audition. First time, 37 years, they put me, I got the email, congratulations, you have been cast as, and I was like, what? I'm gonna what? Because I had no clue that I could do any of that. So I, sucked it up and said, yeah, I'm going to show up and I'm going to do this. And I did the Godspell at Albertus, which interestingly, our director just passed, Alda Fabio, a staple in this community. I started with him, with the guy I was hanging around with when I was a junior in high school at Albertus, doing his lighting work for his first Godspell.
Wow.
Then I was there for his second, and then he did it every sort of 5 years as a spiritual devotion. and I was in his last one.
That's such a great
So
story.
it was great to be a part of it, and I had so much fun doing it that I got the guts up to go to center stage and audition for Fran and Gary Scarpa, another two institutions in our community. I'd known them since I was in college. They still call me by my maiden name. Gary Scarpa said, "Jackie Bodette, what are you doing here?" And I said, "I'm not really sure here." And he said, "Well, just sing." And they were doing Fiddler, and I got Golda. So,
Do you love me?
yes. What?
Exactly.
And Mark Garofalo, was the mayor of Derby, now he's the city clerk in Derby, was my Tevye. And we just had a blast. We sold out the performance before it ever opened. We had to add a weekend. We had a loving, wonderful, supportive cast, no divas, all good. And it was a terrific experience. So that's how I sort of got back into performing, because I figured, well, if I could audition and actually get something, then maybe I can do this. And then New Haven Ballet asked if I would do the grandmother, which is really an acting role. It's walking with style. So I've done that now for 5 years. And then 3 years ago, they threw in Mother Ginger. So.
Which I have had the pleasure of seeing your performance.
That's right.
Years. Now, you mentioned your kids. Are they still in the arts?
My daughter got her undergraduate degree at Fordham at Lincoln Center in psychology. I think half as a character study and half because she liked working with challenged folks. And she has went back and got her master's at Pratt Institute in dance and movement therapy. So she is using her craft to help people. So she is dancing for a living. My son went on, I said he was the quadruple threat. His senior year of high school, he was Kenickie in Greece, and he was also the master electrician on the show.
Wow.
So he went to what I call the dark side, and he ended up in tech. He works for Sound Associates in Yonkers. Right now is not working because Broadway shut, so he shut. But he is doing projections, video, and audio on and off Broadway's tours. They deploy him for all kinds of things. And he's starting to work in the film industry a little bit, and I think that's probably where he'll end up.
That's great. That is great. Well, I know this is a challenging time, and I strongly believe, and I think you do too, that the arts are helping many people get through this today.
Well, I think our president recently called us extraneous nonsense.
Oh yeah, did you see that Facebook
Yeah,
post tonight?
yeah. So I would like everyone to turn off their television and no movies, no music, no art, no creativity, and see what extraneous nonsense we really are, because it's not. We are vital, and I think people are going to see for the most part that that's what got them through. When they go back and look, those creative moments are going to come back and say, that's what got me through this. That opportunity to see that, to hear that work, to see that piece, to sing that song. And it's certainly what's going to happen for the kids. We see kids, and you said I worked with the Whitney Players. We're doing workshops right now online for kids that don't get to see each other. And just for them to be able to focus on improving their craft and working on their song and bringing it back the next week to showcase for their friends. And then they do their serious work, they do what they do, and then they sit and they just talk. But they've created this safe, wonderful, supportive environment. And they're free to be themselves, because when you're in theater, you put it out there. You take risks and do things that you wouldn't normally do. And instead of a crowd that judges, this is a crowd that applauds that. So it's nice to see the kids interacting with each other in these workshops in a way that you probably wouldn't get live this is where you're so intense. So in some ways it helps amplify that connection.
Yeah, I'm still holding virtual rehearsals with some of my groups, and I find that the kids really need it for each other to see, but I also need it. I'm missing seeing them and rehearsing with them, and it's nuts, but the show will go on. We just don't know when, right?
Yeah, we hope so. We were in final dress rehearsal for A Wiz Junior with the cast of 17 and under on March 11th. And when the rehearsal ended at 9:30, we sat them down, still in costume, taking off their microphones, and said that the building was closing at midnight and we wouldn't be able to do the show.
Yeah.
So all we can do is hope that we're going to get through that door at the Emerald City and get into Oz sooner or later.
Yeah, similar with me at Branford High School. We were a week out from Sweeney Todd, and I have never wanted to get to Fleet Street more.
Yeah.
You are so great. The foundation is so great. Thank you for supporting the arts, and thank you for being you. And hang in there, and thanks for chatting today.
Thank you, Colin. It's been great. Thanks for all you do for all of us.
Thanks. We'll see you at the next episode. Bye, guys.
Thank you for joining us on Face to Face. We would like to thank our sponsors, Oak Tree Development and the Community Foundation for Greater New Haven, and Brad Ross for the themed music. You can follow us on legacytheaterct.org.